What's up, everyone? My name is Dewa. This is Dank Mom's podcast, and I'm doing some special episodes just covering the True Detective Season 4 on HBO Max. I'm calling it HBO, and I'll be calling it HBO the whole time because I am not signing on for Max. Max, to me, sounds like Cinemax, and I don't know why they changed it. Everybody knows HBO, blah, or whatever it does. And I don't know. I'm not going to call it Max. I think it's a bad move, and I wish they didn't rename it. But on Max, episode 3 of the True Detective Season 4 is entitled Number 3, and we're still going, kind of looking through more of the backstory and the history of these characters, and slowly moving forward the storyline on who killed the scientist at the lab, and also who killed the scientist at the lab, and how it is or is not connected to the murder of Annie Kowtow from 6 years. Hold on, was it 6 years prior? Now I don't know, but I think she was murdered six years before. Could it have been 6 years? I have to go back and recheck that. But anyways, what we find out is that Lund is still alive after having had surgery. He's one of the corpsicle guys, and he had his legs and arms amputated, basically. Hold on, was his arms? His arms were like amputated to the forearm, and his legs were amputated. The reason why I know this is, spoiler alert, we get to see it at a point during this, but the whole podcast is spoiler alert, basically. And then we find out that the tiny blue home at the very end of the number 2 second episode ends up being the ice cabin that you build, or that Kavik built to go ice fishing. And that's the 5th day of the long night, and it starts with a flashback, back where how Navarro first met Annie Kowtow, and she was going to arrest her. She was going to arrest Annie for basically doing something like, I don't know, was it at the mining company, like she was over there fucking around. What I do like about the episode is it continues to show how disorienting it is when you don't know what time of day is. Like, we never know. Were they drinking coffee? What are the signals for what time of day it is? I do think that, another thing that happened was another mental episode happened with Navarro's sister, and there was an incident with Liz and her stepdaughter Leah starting to kind of be more interested in what the protesting to the mining is all about. Basically, there's no family in the town that seems like they have not been impacted in some way by the mine, especially the mine. Everybody's impacted by the mine's pollution into the water. Like, the water is black. Like, to me, I don't really know if it feels to me that that kind of town would have like, what do you call it, septic systems, and maybe different ways of getting water, like having a water tank as opposed to like getting water piped in from the county. But I don't know. But the water is black, not unlike Flint, Michigan. Continues to this day. Dirty water. In this country, Alaska, not just including Alaska, there's dirty water and environmental racism in every city, in every part of this country, which further contributes to the oppression of those that live and with the effects, primarily poor people and people of color, which in this country have a tendency to be connected. Anyways, so then a part of the recap also, we find out that Hank mishandled the information from the previous investigation originally with the Annie Kowtow. Somebody told him about Anthony Clark, the naked dude that's on the loose, that was with Annie Kowtow, that also owned that RV, the crazy ass RV with all the stuff. Now I'm thinking he might have lost his mind at some point. He has her phone, So it kind of makes me feel a certain way, but I have some ideas, but I'm gonna save my predictions or guesses for the end. One of the most important scenes I saw in this episode, and I think it is an important scene in TV history. I've watched so much TV. I don't know what, I'm a TV kid. I was raised on TV and movies, so I know a lot about it. And I also am a critic of, a cultural critic of how women and minorities are represented on television. And I can say I have not seen very many movies or television, because this is television, quote unquote, streaming, that has represented women in this way, multidimensional, and it doesn't feel forced in any way. These are women just doing their job, and this is how women live every day. Not necessarily like everything about it, but the way that we could be strong and we could stand up for ourselves, and we're not even talking about whatever, superficial topic that the movie wants to talk about. For example, when they find out, this is the scene that I'm talking about, when they find out that Hank mishandled the information, they come bombing through in the truck, and Callie comes in pissed. Now, every time they go into the ice, there is that ice, those corpuscles are causing a lot of problems. So, because every time somebody goes in there, it seems like there's a fight or an argument or something that's happening around it. But then that also could be the nature of Danvers. She's a very, oppositional type character. She's the aggravator, the antagonist, but she's the protagonist. But anyways, but she's also the antagonist to everybody else. So, I think the thing to bring up at this point is, I think that it is safe to assume that this is a story, and they're using this storytelling technique of, it's an unreliable narrator. I think the narrator is unreliable, and I think that that is part of playing into how suspenseful, interesting, and mysterious that this actual, the series is. But I don't think that, I don't think that everything points to something, but everything is interesting. Not everything points to who killed those dudes and or Andy Cowtock. I do think the other thing that they're really driving home, but I didn't catch it on the first viewing of this, was that the twist and shout. So in the show, if you watch it with closed caption, you can, I don't know, I never heard nobody whistle twist and shout. I don't think twist and shout is really a whistleable song. Like you don't even know what, there's too much going on. Twist and shout, and now come on, baby, just like I knew you would. Who whistles that song? No one whistles twist and shout. I don't even know who sings twist and shout. Now, I thought it was the Beatles. I don't know now anymore. Now I feel like it might be somebody else. But anyway, so when twist and shout comes up, it's the song that she listens to with her baby. It's the song that is playing at the lab. And then in this episode, they show it playing in the refrigerator. When she goes to put that chicken in the refrigerator, the closed caption said twist and shout. And she's like, is there a little concert going on in my fridge? There's that. And then when Liz is recounting the story of what the Wheeler situation was, she is also an unreliable narrator. So I kind of think that is a, what do they call it? Easter egg for the audience to know that you can also consider the overall narration of the story is as true as Liz's description of what happened to Wheeler. We don't know. Wheeler's dead, right? We don't know what happened to him. And Wheeler was supposedly, according to the closed caption, whistling twist and shout. And, okay, so was that intentional? Like, was the murderer have some kind of information? Or is the homie just like twist and shout, right? Is it coincidence or not? So I think that's an interesting concept, because that's what's happening now, is like nature and nurture, kind of like, are these things supernatural? or are these things, just coincidences that just happen to be, share some similarities to quote unquote spiritual or supernatural events, such as what is that thing called? The little twisty thing, and the twist and shout, for example. Like when you hear those again and again, are those in the story, are those really important or not important to the telling of who killed these dudes or what the story is? I also kind of want to know if they are, I think it would be interesting to find out if they are utilizing the quote-unquote Chekhov's gun principle, which means the gun or basically anything in the first act as a weapon or whatnot should not be shown at all in the first act if it doesn't come back in the third act in some significant way. And I think the actual philosophy goes for basically anything in the script should have a usefulness, and nothing is there that's unuseful. It's the philosophy isn't like something that everybody subscribes to. Some people don't believe in it at all. I can't remember. There was another person. I can't remember. It was another writer that was like, no, I don't follow that. Also, the oranges, I found there's a bunch of oranges, and there was a lot of production that went around in getting these oranges all over the ground when they went out for the manhunt. And then it ends, so you get to see a birth. You get to, at the beginning, you get to see a birth. You get to see how how Navarro gets introduced to Annie Cowtalk. And I think it's important that there was a lot of coverage of indigenous culture and kind of ways that both Leah, who's Liz's stepdaughter, and Navarro were introduced to their culture in a beautiful way by the town of Ennis, or by specifically Annie Cowtalk for Navarro, and how like that moment where Navarro takes off her jacket in the birthing center and becomes a part of her culture finally, in a small way. And Annie was that guide, because she knew. Annie knows, she's one of those people that's a connector and that knows. And so I think from there on you can assume that Annie and Navarro became friends. And so in current day, Navarro considers herself, she knows everything about Annie that is to be known. I do think it was interesting that that they brought up Liz's what did I call it the other day? Her body count comes up again. Tinder? She's on Tinder, and Navarro is like, "What? You're on Tinder?" And I thought it was hella funny because Liz was like, "Yeah, sometimes I go out to it wasn't Anchorage. Did she say Juneau? Or she's like, yo, I go out to Anchorage and I catch some D out in Anchorage." That's what it seems like. But then she turns around and sneaks out a little bit of her shell and into her vulnerability, where she asks Navarro, "What do you do? What do you do for what do you do when you're lonely?" I think that's what she says. "What do you do when you're lonely?" And Navarro says that she prays. And Liz, such an asshole, she's so ungrounded in her divinity, in her spirituality, which I find just in regular day life, not in regards to TV, I find it hard to believe and very difficult to be able to move forward at the highest level of your skill set and not be grounded in spirituality, or try to chase your divine purpose and not have a spiritual grounding. So I think that's part of the reason why Liz is so untethered in a way. Okay. But from the podcast that I listened to, the HBO podcast, official one for this episode, the actual director, Issa Lopez, said that Annie Cowtalk represents the soul and hope of the land that she brings life. She's a life bringer. as opposed to maybe the mining company that is about pollution and degradation and capitalism and that colonialism and the abolishing of what was the word, like traditional ways of life, ways of bringing life, ways of dying. And also separately, there is a movement to eradicate native birthing centers. And so just in current day life. And so her having this underground type birthing center is also a political point. But knowing that a lot of the births in Ennis, based on the baby being stillborn that Leah talks about, I get the feeling that still having a stillbirth is not a big deal. Based on the eye patch that I saw at the funeral, having some kind of eye issue isn't uncommon. I'm wondering if it's like a cancer in your optical nerve, because I have heard about that, or people having cancer behind their eyeball and that type of thing. And then it got me thinking, like, what kind of imbalance happens when somebody like Annie Kowtow, the midwife, she's like the person who, a matriarchal figure that passes on knowledge. Like, what is that hole now in the community that she's gone? And is that part of this disequilibrium that is going on? Like, who's delivering the babies? Who's doing all that? So I think that those things they're combined. And also then you look at Liz Danvers and what is her guilt around what happened to her own child, which I can say now, I pretty confidently that died because of, something that happened to the mine, because he did have an eye patch. So this one I think is about finding your roots and making amends with that. So yes, I'm also taking the position that that I think it's an unreliable narrator. I think the narrator of the story is just like, these are a number of different points and interesting things, but it's not necessarily going to lead us to the solving of the murder. But I don't know if I just said this, but there was this other movie called Insomnia with Al Pacino and Robin Williams. I think it was like back in the early aughts, like maybe, I don't want to know, I want to say turn of the century. At the turn of the century, where it was Alaska but perpetual daytime. And so that was another kind of disorienting, a use of the disorientation. Anyways, just how Alaska during those times where it's all night or all day is very disorienting, and it leads to a interesting part of a suspense or mystery. Oh yeah, and I didn't even finish that thought. So what I thought was so remarkable about the scene when they came bombing back after they found out that Hank lied is they just came in and Navarro just went straight up to him and was like, "What's up? Why'd you do that?" And he behaved like a lot of men do, unapologetic, just like, "Yo, she was a hoe. If hoes die, could be anyone." That's bullshit. But just the dynamic, the actual vibration, the energy of Callie Reis, the actress, or Navarro looking right at Hank, and she was not backing down. And I felt so good because she had the physical presence, she had the body, she had to let him know in her eyes, her body, and her soul, she was like, you feeling like fighting today? Because Callie Reis, the actress, is a boxer, a professional boxer, and you can kind of tell. Like, she's, like, you can kind of tell. That's all I gotta say. Did you guys see the sex scene with Kavik? She's hella, like, she would have fucked up Hank and his old ass. Like, Hank is over here slapping his son backhanded. Who's hitting kids these days? It's like, what? I know he's not a kid, but anyways, I love the idea that Navarro went up, said something to him, and then Liz went up and said something to him, and Navarro, if you look at the scene, Navarro's like this back there, like, do something. Because I don't know, sometimes you feel like if you're in a fight or if you're in a tough situation, it's one thing, but if you're seeing your friend in a tough situation, you're even more down to like have their back. And I don't think I've seen it done that way, where it felt like it was fair, it was even. Like if things went down and Hank got his ass laid out on the ice, I felt like it was fair. Unfortunately, he didn't, and he just got tea thrown in his face, which is, I don't know, it's kind of beautiful too. I mean, I'm a Buddhist, so whatever, but like as a Buddhist, I think the tea in the face felt pretty satisfying too. I wished it was something else, but the hitting, I mean, what would it kind of escalate the situation? But the tea in the face, that's old school. But also, he didn't do anything because he knew he was wrong. How is that going to come back and bite him? I don't know. But I would love to see Callie Reis punch Hank in the face and lay his ass out. Like, make him, like, punch him and, like, have him slide across the ice. That would have been hella funny. But they did not decide to do that. I don't know. I didn't like that they brought up Tinder and her. I didn't think that, I think that Liz could have been a little tougher when she reprimanded Hank, but there's something that they're not telling us. Oh yeah, that's the other person. She slept with Hank too. I didn't add that last time. She slept with Hank too. And I also got such the Zoomer, like, homie, Hank thought that it was so offensive, and it's only offensive to Liz, because I bet even Navarro don't know who Mrs. Robinson is. And it was like, the Zoomer asked, Zoomer Pete asked Liz, who's like, who is Mrs. Robinson? Yeah. That dude was really trying to get her. Hank is an asshole, and I'm not. I don't like. So yeah, so the fruit, I'm interested in hearing more about what happens with the oranges. I love that Liz told the story to Pete, and then they show it that she misrepresents it. And I also thought, I don't know, I was stoned when I watched this, but I don't know, when Liz asked Navarro if, what she does when she's bored or lonely, and Navarro said that she prays, and then Liz was like, "Wah," and then Navarro says, I watch Netflix. I was like, dude, they should have broke the fourth wall and be like, I'll be watching Max, formerly known as HBO, and then like go back, but whatever. I think that, to me, this story is very similar, or the way that it's being told is similar to the HBO series The Night Of, because they also showed a lot that was unrelated, and it was just adding color to the story. Nothing. It was like almost like the anti-Chekhov's gun philosophy, because they're like, we'll add a whole bunch of superfluous stuff, and then you can sort it out. I mean, because when you think about that, and I think about how this show is set, like the set design and everything, they're supposed to be in an old dentist office, the way it feels, the way it looks, it puts it on its head, the whole idea of what we think a police station looks like on TV versus what a real police station looks like versus what a police station in a community that doesn't have any extra space that's really usable like that, what they would use. And they use a dentist office, which kind of makes sense. But going back to the whole unreliable narrator story, I do think that it's a, I don't know how this is connected, but I'm just going to say it. I've always thought it was interesting the way that, like, in movies, doctors' offices and, like, jails and stuff, that general people, they think that that's what doctors' offices and jails look like. But that's not true. It's just what Hollywood or whoever thought that they look like. Like, doctors' offices are portrayed in movies as what? Almost 9 times out of 10, we're going straight into an office. I've never been in an office for a doctor. Like an actual office for a doctor of, not like a therapist, but like going in to talk to your gyno. You don't go into the office. So I kind of think about that and thinking about like how unreliable narrators can be. Another question that I have outlying is who was shooting the caribou at the beginning? Was that the Asian dude scientist? Was it one of the locals? Like, what was that all about? I'm not sure. Then the other thing that came up was that what was the other thing that Oliver Tsagog, the evidence room. Hold on, I was gonna say something. Oh yeah, and the other thing that I was thinking about was, I feel like the grandma in this, I see her as being, if you go back and look at her, swear to God, she looks like the indigenous version of Pauly Walnut's from The Sopranos mom. The one that was like always getting in trouble with the girls at the nursing home. The other thing that happened in this was that they went out to a fishing camp and found Oliver Tsagog, who is a contractor / scientist that used to work at Tsalal, but was never put on the books and was not a current employee. So they couldn't find him, but they went to go look for him. That scene was a little different than the other ones because I felt like they were really playing up how, not Liz, why do I always say that? How Navarro was. She was pretty, like, ham-fisted and sloppy when she went in to interview him, because she just came in talking about what you know. And it's like, who talks like that? Like, who asks questions in that manner? If you're a detective, you shouldn't be coming on, what you know, and, like, pull out your gun. Of course, homie's gonna, I don't know, it's giving new recruit. Like, she's giving new recruit. And she seems really immature when other people are there. For example, like, when she's kind of razzing Pete, she's like, freshman this. She just seems like not like how she is in other scenes. She's very childish, I think. Okay, so at the end of this episode, okay, so we find out that Annie was murdered by something, and it was filmed on her iPhone. She's like, I'm Annie. I'm about to get murdered in this ice hole. I don't know where I am. And then you hear something, and then she's dead. And she's screaming. You can hear her screaming in the background. And then at the end of the episode, they go to the hospital because Lund wakes up and is talking. This is where the episode and the creators, they really lost me on this part, because the whole last portion of this show was just so out there that I don't know if they can come back with it. Because, number one, okay, complete spoilers here. So Lund is awake. He just got all his limbs amputated, and he's in a recovery room. And this goes back to the misrepresentation of real, actual places that exist in real life. No recovery room looks like that. Bear, they don't look like that. He's not even really hooked up to IVs, just a few IVs. Homie had 4 limbs cut off, and he was in ice for 3 days. And his lips are hella chapped. His tongue is hella chapped. Everything is chapped on his ass. Like, he has no hands, no feet. He's hella chapped. His eyes are fucked up. And he can talk? He can talk? I've seen people yell at a concert too much, and they can't talk for 2 days. The homie was in ice for days, wakes up screaming, ah! Also, usually if you are recovering, you have air here or air here. No, homie's just raw dogging it with air everywhere. He doesn't even have oxygen. He's like, ah! And that part was too funny to me. It was so funny because he has no bandages on his wounds. They show the wound with the sewing, with the stitches all around it, like, why would his wound be exposed like that? Every wound, he's just like a bunch of nubs, like, yelling, and he's in pain like that? Look, I've been in the hospital for an extended period of time. There's no yelling like that. You don't get to yell like that in most hospitals, especially one like that small in Alaska. You don't get to yell, and the way he was yelling was hella scary. Who yells like that? But the reason why this went was because when Navarro stands in the doorway watching Lund do whatever Lund be doing, screaming at the top of his lungs, man, that dude would have been, I swear to God, that dude would be high and hopped up on Dilaudid. He would not be raw dogging the wounds. This whole thing with the head twisting and the, like this whole thing, the head twisting and like being like, oh, your mom says she's waiting. Like, I don't know. It was kind of creepy the way he moved, but it wasn't. I just think that whatever they were trying to do, like make it a little more scary or something, just wasn't. That did not do it for me. And I just want to see where this is going. I hope the writing and the creativity doesn't go the way of this goddamn body, Lun's body, because that shit was hilarious. Now, if this starts getting hilarious because it's so bad, I don't know what to do. Side note, I did read an article from wherever, and Nick Pizzolatto that wrote the first season was like, nope, I didn't have nothing to do with that season. I ain't got my name on that at all. Even though his name is executive producing, he was like, nope, I don't have nothing to do with that. Nothing to do with that story. And he like laughs at everything as if it's not well written. I'm scared, but I got my money on the woman director because I think she sounds like she knows what she's doing. She has a point of view. Let's see how it fully gets executed. Because right now, that alone, the scene where he comes back to life is too... That was a piece of shit. That did not do whatever it needed to be done. He could have just been quiet. Why you gotta be yelling like that? He's constantly yelling, too. That's how bad he was scared. And, oh, yeah, and that was one other thing that I didn't... The vet that came in instead of the forensic... A guy who was a veterinarian, instead of a forensic scientist, came and, like, gave his opinion on what happened to the people, the bodies. And he said those people are scared. That's not how they die, how animals die in the wild. Now, this could be just his opinion, and it could be completely wrong. Maybe he has something to do with it. But then I thought, is it possible, this is my theory, is it possible that, oh, did I even do this? Did I even say anything? I do want to say something that I don't know if y'all noticed, but when they're in the ice house, when Navarro comes out and sees the ice house and goes and visits Kavik in there, that dude's got a dope jacket on. There's so many good fashion pieces in this show. I want that dude's jacket, so I need to get my hands on something like that. And also, oh yeah, so this is what I think. I think one guess is that Annie was murdered in the ice thing, obviously, but I think she might have been murdered by a caribou. Because I was just thinking, don't caribou have don't their horns kind of make star shape? I looked it up online to see what Haribo. I said Haribo, but I meant to say Haribo because of the gummy bears. But now I'm saying caribou. Caribou horns, are they textured like that? But would somebody notice that off the bat? Ooh, these are horn stabs. But I'm thinking that she was murdered in that ice tunnel, ice cave. And then maybe someone from the lab, I think someone from the lab probably found her and didn't want to report it. So I think that it's possible that Annie Kowtow was murdered by some kind of animal or monster or whatever they're saying that it was. And then they found her body. They didn't want to compromise their site. So they relocated her to another location. And then put her inside that thing, the shipping container. And that maybe the animals, when they killed her, maybe that had something, like her tongue got cut out or damaged and somehow, and homie Clark kept it because he's crazy, and then he started to lose his mind and felt like he was being taken over by spirits, but he was losing his mind. Because I think that's the other thing that ties back to the shaman. She says, don't mistake it for mental health issues. Like, don't mistake spirituality for mental health issues. So I think that, or being connected with the other side as as mental health issues. So yeah, so I think that then Clark started to lose his mind, and then he couldn't live with it anymore, and so he killed everybody. I think he did kill everybody. At the lab, I think he probably chased him out, is what I think. And then I think he's still living there. He's chilling at the lab because I saw somebody scurry, and I think it was his ass. And it's like, I'm never going to get over this whole hospital. It totally erased everything in the episode for me. That scene in the room with the head turning and the freaking dude yelling out, like, shut the fuck up, dude. Why are you so loud right now? You just got your limbs removed. Please stop yelling like that. But, I mean, it's for the movie. Yeah, I think Annie was killed by something. The scientists found her. Homie kept her tongue. And unrelated, the people got, not unrelated, but the people got killed by Clark because he was losing his mind and he couldn't. I mean, think about this. He's been living up there for so long, no contact. Finally, he meets somebody that he really clicks with. They get the little RV and they're going. Because Annie didn't want to be seen with no white boy. I could understand that. Because everybody in this story is in a mixed relationship. And the mixed relationship is showing, it represents like that the collision between old and new, past and present, colonizer and oppressed, that type of thing. So I just think that the acting is really good, but except for the thing at the end, like that was too much. But I do kind of like the idea that the male characters or the men in this show are like, they're just along for the ride. They're not the point of it. We don't really talk about too much about their background. Like they're just, they're there to help move the story along, but they're not the center of it because Liz and Navarro are. So yeah, I'm thinking that this is like an unreliable narrator situation. I don't think everything is going to have to do with it, but I hope there's a big reveal. Like the only other one I was thinking about unreliable narrator, that I kind of was drawing a parallel is freaking, Ocean's 11. What is this is like the Ocean's 11 of truth, because they're like, aha, it wasn't that, it was really this because we didn't show you, and behind that is like a freaking, who knows what's gonna happen. But I think the caribou stabbed her, because what would make a star-shaped, I have a screwdriver that's a star-shaped bit, but I don't think that was it. I'm thinking it was caribou or little pieces of okra. Ladyfingers, they have a star pattern. But anyways, yeah. And what else? Okay, I think that's pretty much it. I'm really looking forward to the next episode. I want to see some things get further fleshed out. Another thing, because I don't really believe that Liz, the character of Liz, being so against indigenous culture, yet having a child that was mixed, having a husband who was, I just don't think that she wouldn't know anything about the culture, because she was like, I don't want to hear no woo woo this and no laundromat grandma. Bitch, that she should have got checked there. She did. Her partner's wife, or her report's wife, told her to get out, and the grandma too. But I don't think that someone, in my opinion, somebody who lived in the culture like that would be that, I don't know, critical of it. But I know that it exists. I know people live in mixed, I know people who are undocumented and do not, and are against undocumented people. Like, how? And so that's kind of like the town. They need to figure out in this story, how do they move forward with the nuances of living in a mixed society, a society that isn't homogenous. There's multiple stories, there are multiple needs, there's multiple reasons, and life is not black and white. It's not like we hate white people, we hate indigenous, but we all gotta live together. So what's the path forward where everyone feels like they are respected, and that maybe not all, that the land is respected, that what happens to this land is respected, and the people who came with the land. And I'm glad that this doesn't seem like it's being written from that colonialist perspective, and it's playing with that narrative. And I just want to see more of it. But if the fourth episode, because I think there's only 6 episodes, if the fourth episode shows that they're going in the same direction as that last part where the legs and everything was cut off, that just made it like, it just like sent it out of, it just brought me out of the mood. It's kind of like, I thought we were playing here, and now all of a sudden you're doing something else. Now I thought we were being serious, and now you're playing. That's what it seems like. We were being serious, and now you're playing. Because why were the wounds exposed like that? That was unnecessary and silly. It was like basically like Frankenstein. It was like, who does that? He might as well be green. And that was the other thing they said. They said gangrene was going to set in. And I also don't believe that a mom from the spirit realm would go through someone like that. Like go through Lund to send a message to the daughter. Now that shit's on it. He's doing something else. But anyway, I'm looking forward to it. I continue to be awed by Callie Reis and Jodie Foster's performances. And I guess the only other thing I want to end with is Paul Giamatti got nominated for an Oscar for his work in Hereafter, and I'm fucking sick of it. I'm fucking sick with even knowing Paul Giamatti's name, because like Paul Giamatti is like the Vin Diesel of the auteur actors, because it's like every role is just for you. Like you're Paul Giamatti in Sideways, you're Paul Giamatti in what's that? The one about the comic book illustrator. Well, that one, Splendor, was it American Splendor? He's Paul Giamatti in everything. Even if he's playing period, he's still Paul Giamatti. Like, is Paul Giamatti the spirit that has lived forever? I don't know. It's just like, I don't think he's acting. Like, let me get Paul Giamatti doing something that's a stretch. Because every time he looks like, unless Paul Giamatti is like some swaggy dude outside of being an actor, it looks like he's wearing his regular clothes. And on the Holdovers, what was so great about his acting in that? He was just acting normal. The only thing, it was like Paul Giamatti with a lazy eye. Why'd they call him Walleye though? Oh my God, if you see Holdovers, and I thought I was hearing something, they're like, we call him Walleye. I was like, what's Walleye? Later on, they were like, because one eye looks like it's looking at the wall. And then how do you pretend to have a lazy eye? Does Paul Giamatti have a lazy eye or not? But at any rate, let Paul Giamatti go. I don't know why you guys are so moved by his acting, but it ain't a thing. It's Paul Giamatti playing Paul Giamatti. Must be nice to be a weird-looking white guy and being like, you know, I got people writing roles for me left and right. I mean, fuck it. I mean, if Paul Giamatti gets it, I guess he gets it. But I certainly hope he doesn't, because I don't know. Paul Giamatti. I was trying to do a impersonation. Anyways, this is Dewa. It's Dank Mom's podcast. True Detective, Season 4, Episode 3. Thanks for listening and or watching. I hope I brought something to the table for you to consider. And was there any good quotes in there this time? No. But don't forget about the Pauly Walnuts thing. And maybe go back and watch it and see if you think that the grandma looks like indigenous Pauly Walnuts' grandma. Mom. Pauly Walnut's mom, when she goes to the nursing home. Check it out. All right. Take care.